against a police state, against racist intersectionality, against political correctness, against mob rule, against the racist socialist left, against the victimhood liars. The idiots have been in charge way too long. And that's why you're here. For the podcast you need. All for liberty all the time. Welcome to Liberty Bites Back. With your host, Brandon Emo.
Welcome to the 14th episode of Liberty Bites Back, the podcast all for liberty, all the time. In this episode, I will be going over Henry Kissinger's deep state madman strategy and the difference of that and the madman strategy of Donald Trump, the Trump Doctrine, the mRNA vaccine, Senator Kelly Loeffler's campaign aide, and going over what may be the mask mandate's real purpose in our country. Under Richard Nixon, the liar, the fraud, that was his administration, the corrupt involvement of election fraud. But Nixon's Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger, is caught on the limelight. He engineered the close relations with China. He influenced the fall of the Soviet Union. He arguably won a Nobel Peace Prize in 1973 while two people resigned over his winning in protest. He was awarded it for ending Vietnam, but we the people were the ones begging for peace as he started the whole situation. His limelight was truly politics and gaslighting mainstream media, creating his legacy in the normal thought line of the prostitutes, the corporate media that lies and gaslights to all of their viewers. He became in his limelight a clear and influential war criminal. Henry Kissinger became one through his deep state infiltrating theories of madman strategy of foreign policy that goes to a globalist cause. The Cambodia bombings were even his idea in the issues of 1970. All the famous through punk rock anthems and rock and roll protest songs going against the madman strategy of Henry Kissinger. But until this year, his ideas were the functional war plan, the plans that were set forth in every war on the earth. Working under all President Nixon as a great voice in the efforts of the war plan, he helped George H.W. Bush with the New World Order Doctrine in the 1990s and led efforts with the Clinton administration following the George Bush's Jr.'s administration, even showing the truth of hope seller and war liar Barack Obama in 2008, and just this year fired by President Donald Trump. The Kissinger madman strategy led a war every presidential administration, a brand new war to be built up and included into the dozens around the world. It was always about establishing globalist aims of society and ignoring national boundaries and human rights. He would be seen at Bilderberg, G20, and many events public and secret to control the globalist aim of the plans, undermining the Constitution and human rights worldwide and here, spying and aiming the guns at we the people, not minding the casualties and also calling soldiers pawns for foreign policy. The Kissinger Doctrine is the old and terrible way of killing our own for the globalist doctrine of the world order. While first under Donald Trump, the madman strategy seemed to be just trying to get anything done while the Kissinger plan is being aimed all over the world. Trump trying to stop the plans, but ultimately has been shown the deep state had hidden all real plans from Donald Trump. The Trump Doctrine, or Donald Trump's madman strategy, was more spot on from the definition where it comes from. Being random, being spot on the warnings, but erratically. It seems to have been a great response to many who were trying to even stop him from peace or wanting to adapt the strategy of the Madman strategy being done correctly, as Donald Trump did it. Aiming towards empty buildings more being a warning and being a disturbing warning to the nations in question. Getting peace deals in the Middle East with this strategy was the main and most important site in the Trump Doctrine. Anything to stop the ongoing war of centuries. It caused no new war, which never happened under the Kissinger Madman strategy. Instead, it was built to remove America from war and strategically end the wars you are in. End and be done type of strategy based on America First doctrine, along with the Make America Great Again hopes. Focusing on national sovereignty of all nations, causing the firing of Henry Kissinger as he turned many on Donald Trump to lie to him all the time. The deep state infiltrated the government, and ultimately Donald Trump learned of it after the media said that Joe Biden won the 2020 election. Only months existed for him to be able to fix the issues. So we shall see if we keep any part of this Trump doctrine, or if we fall back into the Henry Kissinger doctrine. The aim against the deep state plans surely made Donald Trump a target through all his presidency. To the propaganda, Donald Trump was a Russian agent, but the deep state and the Obama administration were instead the Russian agents, giving Russia many of our nuclear heads. And then they had the audacity to blame Donald Trump for Russian influence. From the EU Research and Innovation magazine, they have went over 5 things you need to know about the mRNA vaccines. The race for a vaccine against the novel coronavirus or SARS-CoV-2 is on, with 54 different vaccines under development, 2 of which are already being tested in humans according to the World Health Organization. And among the different candidates is a new player on the scene. mRNA vaccines. One mRNA vaccine developed by U.S. company Moderna began its first human trials on the 16th of March, whereas other development by German company CureVac had been offered 80 million euros in investment by the European Commission. But what exactly are mRNA vaccines, and why could they be promising in the fight against coronavirus? We spoke to Professor Isabel Bernanke-Ding, head of the microbiology division of Germany's Paul Ehrlich Institute, which provides scientific advance to companies including CureVac, who sits on the scientific committee of the Europe's Innovative Medicines Initiative. Here are the 5 things to know. 1. They're a whole new type of vaccine. If an mRNA vaccine was approved for coronavirus, it would be the first of its type. It's a very unique way of making a vaccine, and so far no such vaccine has been licensed for infectious disease, said Professor Bernanke-Ding. Vaccines work by training the body to recognize and respond to the proteins produced by a disease-causing organism, such as a virus or bacteria. Traditional vaccines are made up of small or inactive doses of the whole disease-containing organism or the protein that it produces, which are introduced to the body to provoke the immune system into mounting a response. The mRNA vaccine, in contrast, tricks the body into producing some type of viral proteins itself. They work by using mRNA or messenger RNA, which is a molecule that essentially puts DNA instructions into action inside a cell, and mRNA is used as a template to build a protein. And mRNA basically is like a preform of a protein. Its sequence encodes what the protein is basically made of later on, said Professor Bernanke-Ding. To produce the mRNA vaccine, scientists produce a synthetic version of the mRNA as that a virus uses to build its infectious proteins. This mRNA is delivered into the human body, whose cells reads it as in instructions to build that viral protein and therefore create some of the virus's molecules themselves. These proteins are solitary, so they do not assemble to form a virus. The immune system then detects these viral proteins and starts to produce a defensive response plan to them. Number 2, they can be more potent and straightforward to produce than traditional vaccines. There are 2 parts to the immune system: initiate, the defenses we're born with, and acquired, which we develop as we come into contact with pathogens. Classical vaccine molecules usually only work with the acquired immune system, and the innate immune system is activated by another ingredient called an adjacent. Interestingly, mRNA in vaccines could trigger the innate immune system, providing an extra layer of defense without the need to add adjustants. All kinds of innate immune cells are being activated by mRNA, said the Professor Decadending, and this primes the immune system to get prepared for an endangering pathogen, and thus the type of immune response that is triggered is very strong. There is still a lot of work to be done to understand the response and the length of the protection it could give, and whether there are any downsides. Professor Becker-Ding also explained that because you're not introducing the whole virus into the body, the virus can't mount its own self-defense, and so the immune system can't concentrate on creating a response to the viral proteins without the interference by the virus. And by getting the human body to produce the viral proteins itself, the mRNA vaccines cut out some of the manufacturing process and should be easier and quicker to reproduce than traditional vaccines. In this situation, the major benefit is that it's easy to produce, and it will also probably be relatively easy to do an upscaling of production, which of course is very important if you think about deployment throughout Europe and the world, said Professor Dingelinding. Most of what we know about mRNA vaccines comes from work on cancer. Most work on using mRNA to provoke an immune response has so far been focused on cancer, with tumor mRNA being used to help someone's immune system recognize and respond to the proteins produced by their own specific tumors. This technology was very good on the oncology field because you can develop patient-specific vaccines because every tumor is different, said Professor Decadending. Using tumor and mRNA in this way activates the body's T cells, the part of the acquired immune system that kills cells, which is useful to destroy tumors. It can be important for coronavirus too, and in viral infections, often we know that is something we need for strong T cell response, because viruses like to hide in cells, said Professor Dingelinding. There is a certain hope that, especially in this setting, this could really work and thereby eliminate the infected cells from the body. But to combat such a SARS-CoV-2, it is likely that a different part of the acquired immune system also needs to be activated. The B cells, which produce antibodies that mark the virus out for destruction by the body, and there is experience with this. Aside from the animal infection models, because for the tumor model, this was not that relevant. There are a lot of unknowns because mRNA vaccines are only now beginning to be tested in humans. There's not a lot of fairly basic unknowns which can only be answered through human trials. What is really the current challenge, I think, is to understand whether these vaccines will really be able to mount the sufficient protected immune response to the human, and to understand, for example, which quantities of the mRNA will be needed to do this, said Professor Dingelinding. Other outstanding questions include whether the proteins that have been chosen for the vaccine are the right ones to prevent a coronavirus infection in the body, and how targeted the immune response is to this particular coronavirus, how long any immunity would last, and whether it causes side effects such as increased inflammatory responses like redness and swelling, or in the worst case, aggravates disease. And then 5, it would be possible to vaccinate on a large scale. Once the mRNA vaccine has been approved, which could take up to 12 to 18 months, it should be easy to scale up in production because the manufacturing process is shorter than for other vaccines. Professor Ding estimates a few months rather than 1 to 2 years for conventional vaccines. There is a potential for these vaccines to be scaled up quickly. This is useful in the context of coronavirus, which is likely need mass immunization programs. I think we need a very high population coverage, but depends a little bit on the countries and the epidemiology, said Professor Beckerman-Dean. In the countries where the coronavirus has been spreading very fast, we also expect that there's many people who have been in contact with the virus and who have actually mounted a natural immune response. But on the other end, if you look at Germany, for example, right now we're all at home, bared, and not allowed to leave the house except for necessities. Population therefore remains susceptible to infection, she says. And so here, you would definitely need to think about vaccinating the whole population. That's also why these vaccines are of interest, because you could possibly manage that, while with other vaccines it's harder to produce those quantities in a short period of time. So right there they just said they want to force these on all of us. Well, we already know that this is a new and a whole new type of vaccine that's never been used. They want to guinea pig us. They want to shove these mRNA vaccines into us. From Medina, the CureVac, this is worldwide, people. These vaccines they're wanting, they've never been used on humans, and they're expecting to use them on all humans this year. At least some of these people. They're wanting it for the whole population. And this is just crazy. The Hill reports Loeffler campaign staffer died in a car crash. A 20-year-old campaign aide to Georgia Senator Kelly Loeffler died Friday in a car crash in Georgia ahead of Loeffler's campaign rally with Vice President Pence. The campaign staffer, identified as Harrison Deal, was also a family friend of Georgia Governor Brian Kemp and the former intern for Senator David Perdue. According to Fox News, Loeffler expressed her condolences with Deal's family on Twitter, calling him a beloved member of her campaign team. More importantly, Harrison was a smart, bright, loving, loyal, and outstanding young man, she wrote in a subsequent tweet before asking her fellow Georgians to join her in praying for his family. Loeffler and Kemp opted not to attend the Pence rally in Savannah after hearing of Deal's death. The Atlanta, Georgia Constitution reports a police spokeswoman told the Journal-Constitution that Deal died in a 3-vehicle car crash on an interstate in Georgia on Friday morning. Today we lost a member of our Kemp Strong family, and words cannot express how much Harrison Deal's life, love, and support mean to us, the governor said in a statement he shared on Twitter along with a photo of Deal and his family. He was a person of deep faith, unmatched integrity, and incredible kindness. Harrison was the Kemp son and brother we never had. Perdue joined the Georgia lawmakers in expressing his grief in a series of tweets, writing that he was devastated to learn of Deal's death. While Georgia 2020 election is in question, the governor's family friend and senator staffer is killed. The coincidences seem scary this election season. Omen, the scary and devastating news. Such sadness to hear, and it's truly eerie with this season. Rest in peace, Harrison Deal. What is one way to get technology to work around masks? That may have been a question. Test the product on the public and force masks on them. Did that happen? Well, your masked face is helping them right now for sure. Reason reports facial recognition programs are getting better at recognizing masked faces. Pandemic wear face masks may not be a quite as effective barrier to surveillance as we hoped. While fabric face coverings certainly pose challenges to facial recognition technology, U.S. government researchers say that improving software specifically intended to account for obscured features has reduced the error rate and made it easier to identify people whose faces are partially concealed. So you'll need to add sunglasses and a hat to your privacy-enhancing ensemble to confidently thwart the best efforts of the snoops. But a new study on the facial recognition technology created after the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic shows that some software developers have made demonstrably a lot of progress at recognizing masked faces. The U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology (NIST) announced this week. The new report follows up on earlier research into pre-pandemic technology that found face masks to be effective at thwarting facial recognition efforts. How well do facial recognition algorithms identify people wearing masks? NIST asked back in July. The answer, according to the preliminary study by NIST, is with great difficulty. Since the earlier investigation, though, a new generation of facial recognition software had become available. The new technology is designed to be implemented in a world in which people's lower faces are routinely covered by fabric masks, obscuring many of the features that the software would traditionally compare against stored images in order to identify subjects. The new systems are able to recognize masked people by getting enough key points from just their eyes and nose. The South China Morning Post reported earlier this year. They appear to do so pretty effectively too. Some newer algorithms from developers performed significantly better than their predecessors. In some cases, error rates decreased by as much of a factor of 10 between the pre- and post-COVID algorithms, according to Madman, one of the authors of the latest NIST study. In the best cases, software algorithms are making errors between 2.4 and 5% of the time with the masked faces, comparable to where the technology was in 2017 on non-masked photos. As with the earlier study, NIST researchers applied digitally generated face masks over photographs in order to assess the new technology. They performed one-to-one matching, in which images are compared to stored photos of the same people, as is done at checkpoints or to unlock smartphones. A test of the far more challenging one-to-many matching of the sort conducted when surveillance images of crowds are compared against large databases is planned for the future. While researchers found that facial recognition technology is improving in its ability to identify people through face masks, it still has its limitations. When both the new image and the stored image are the masked faces, error rates run higher, they noted, with a couple of notable exemptions. When the face was occluded in both photos, false matches ran 10 to 100 times higher than the original saved image showed in the uncovered face. That's probably because fewer clear facial features yield fewer points of comparison. They also discovered that for uncertain reasons the color of masks matters. Red and black masks tended to yield higher error rates than the other colors did. Unsurprisingly, larger masks that obscure more facial features result in higher error rates than the smaller masks that only cover the nose and mouth. Continuing a trend from the July 2020 report, round mask shapes which cover only the mouth and nose generate fewer errors than wide ones that stretch across the cheeks, and those covering the nose generated more errors than those that did not. That makes sense for technology that is designed to accommodate masks by comparing details of the upper face. Prescription-type clear lens glasses will generate not to be a problem for facial detection and recognition software. The key eye details are still visible. Loeffler, the CTO of the U.S. facial recognition company Kairos, pointed out in 2015. The best algorithms in the world still have difficulties. However, when people are wearing a dark or shiny sunglasses that effectively hides the pupils of the eyes, this problem is particularly compounded when the glasses obscure and hide the distance between the eyes, which is a key part of many algorithms. Technology has advanced since then, but cameras still have to be able to see the least part of the face in order to match it against a stored image. In China, where surveillance technology is eagerly deployed by the government, Hanwan Technology Ltd. moved early to tweak its software to accommodate the faces masked against the COVID-19. But the system struggles to identify people with both masks and sunglasses, Reuters reported in March this year. Throw a hat in with your sunglasses and a mask, and you have a combination that leaves even the best facial recognition algorithms relatively little data which to go off of. Even more effective means are available for frustrating the snoops, but projectors that superimpose images of other people's faces over your own, and makeup that distorts identifiable features are for the very privacy-minded and unlikely to see widespread adoption. But more practical are reflectical glasses that enhance the already privacy-protected qualities of shades with features that dazzle surveillance cameras. The latest versions are rather stylish and don't make wearers look like Elton John. Despite advancing technology, face masks continue to be some anti-surveillance properties beyond their health applications, which I don't see much of. But for the best results, they need to be complemented by hats and sunglasses that give facial recognition software little with which to work. Now, with all of this said, could this be the deep state's real plan in making for the masks? If so, it's terrible, and I'm worried it's not just this either, to be honest. This is just one part of the plan, for sure. I would like to go ahead and thank you for watching the 14th episode of Liberty Bites Back. You have a great day. Peace.